would you?
Yes, we'll do.
Thank you. Welcome to our phenomenal agents and investors from across the country. Today is Leap Thursday, February 29th, 2024. And I did some quick calculations. By the time this call falls on a Thursday again, it'll be our 2,392nd call in 24 years. So we get very unusual day, and we're glad y'all, as usual, took the time to be here with us. Our coach Bruce is in Thailand on a 3-week vacation. We had a couple agents that we were going to bring you today. I think Renee Abraham, if you're on, Renee, would you raise your hand? I don't know if she's here yet. No, maybe not. Anyway, I'll kind of tease the call. We have 2 agents that started with us. One on May 1st of 2018 and the other on May 3rd of 2018. They've both been with us for over 6 years, or almost 6 years now. And what's kind of extraordinary about both of them, completely different paths they have taken to where they're at right now. Ellen Griffith started out in Los Angeles County. She did not do a deal for 9 months. Didn't do her first probate deal for 9 months. Over the last 6 years, she's done $23 million worth of business. In 2020, she moved to a new market. She moved to Riverside, California, and she had shared with us since she moved in 2020, 100% of her business has been probate. So that was exciting. And then we had, maybe Ronita's not here, but I'll tease her anyway in case she comes on later. Ronita took a different path. She started out in New York City 2 days after Ellen. And Renee, it's not the bulk of her business, but she consistently has done a half a dozen deals a year with probate. And she was kind of downplaying it till she got my attention when she told me, I think it was last year, she did $3 million deals on probate. So her ROI was pretty good. And I just found it interesting, the contrast. One person stuck around long enough, the 9 months, to get the first deal. And now it's her total bread and butter. And the other one, she's still doing her regular business, but this has just been a really nice supplement for her. And I guess neither of them are here. So if Renee does show up, we'll let her come on and answer some questions. Tim, you have anything you want to go over today?
Sure. Yeah, I got a few things I was going to talk about, but I wanted to, just generally add a couple of things. One of them has to do with the cash advance program. We've talked about this several times, and I spent some time with them this morning. And one of the things that's happening with this program is that some of the people that are applying are people that are in desperate straits and have no ability whatsoever to repay the loan. So they're basically, they couldn't get it anywhere else. They're trying to get it here. And one of the things that's causing is it's causing a bit of a problem with the folks that are, legitimately have an opportunity to repay in advance because they're named in the will, they're the sole inheritor, the normal reasons that they would do this program. So the problem is that they have a fixed number of people that work with these folks, and they are people that, they work, each one of them, very hard and try to do everything they can to find a way to advance them some money. So as they do that, the challenge that they're having is they're running out of time because they're basically taking a whole bunch of time for people that literally can't qualify. And that's the problem that they're having. So we're going to change the program a little bit. We haven't done it yet, but we're going to add some qualifiers on the form itself that will basically ask some questions like, are you in fact named as inheritor in the will? Do you, what kind of, do a little advanced qualification, just like you'd normally expect to have if someone was looking for something from you, you'd want to know a little bit about them. And I'm just telling you that we're going to do that. We're going to go back and make those changes, not only to the form on our website, but we're going to go back and do the same thing to the forms on your websites. So it's going to cut down the number of applicants, hopefully, and basically eliminate it or take it down to just the number of people that literally are going to more appropriately qualify. The other thing is that if you're talking to a potential client about it, do a little bit of your homework as well. And when you're having those conversations, and we're seeing an increasing volume in applications, so I know that you're doing it, but make sure that when you have those conversations, you do the same thing. Make it clear to them that, this is not a handout. Somebody's not just standing there waving money in the air. And talk to them about, tell me, are you named in the will? What kind of assets do you have? They're not looking, they will wait until till it gets settled. And that's the real value of this. That's why it's an advance. It's not based on a fixed repayment schedule. They'll wait until until probate gets settled to get paid, but there's got to be a provable ability to come out of that settlement with the ability to repay the cash advance. So do your homework and don't squander this valuable tool, because indeed it is a valuable tool, and we want to make sure everybody gets the best out of it. If you have any questions about that, certainly feel free to raise your hand and be glad to talk some more about it. But if you're not familiar with it, Alyssa, if you'd pop the link in, you may have already done it into the chat. On our website, there's a form, and anybody can go fill that out. You can direct people to that if you don't have one of our credibility websites. It's also a built-in feature as one of our freebies on the credibility website. So we've added that same form to you. And in both cases, it has the ability to name you as the person who referred them, and therefore you get the ability to earn a commission on the cash advances. And they've paid several cash advances out over every week or so. So people are definitely doing well with this program. We know it's of value. And I see there's a hand in the air, and we'll just take that one real quick and see what Carmen has to say before we go any further. Go ahead, Carmen.
Hey, Tim, thank you. I have a quick question on the cash advance. Do you know if a conservator can request that for someone they are a guardian for?
If they have the ability and I won't speak for them because I'm not an attorney, and this is slightly a legal question, but I will tell you that it came up before in a different discussion. And in reality, if they have conservatorship, therefore control of the affairs of that person, and can commit the assets coming out of probate to a cash advance repayment, I would suspect that they can.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
You bet. And certainly try it. And if you find that it works, come back and let us know, because I'd really like to hear that. That's an interesting point, and we do run into that every now and again.
Yeah, I mean, when you're presenting the cash advance, I mean, you try to get in front of them to ask the questions about the cash advance. I mean, like we heard from George last week. I mean, it got him in the door. I mean, it sounds like he was actually able to get over there and get the appointment. And I don't know how that deal has turned out, but it might be a good idea to either jump on Zoom. When you have a kind of a hook, something that somebody really is interested in, that might be the time to set the appointment to try to get over there in front of them to start asking the questions. If you feel like the level of interest has gone way up, you use that as a hook again to get on Zoom or to get in front of them physically, if they're in state.
Right. And Angela had texted something in today and said she wanted to ask a few questions about cash advance as well. And she called to ask them a couple of questions. They also said the person should have an attorney handling their case. And that is what they're looking for, primarily because they've got to talk to somebody that has legal standing to validate, in fact, that there is a will, that the person is named, or as to the inheritance structure of it in the state that they're in. So that's another vital question to ask. Is there an attorney involved in the case? Now, we've been thinking about expanding this into pre-probate for the same kind of purpose, but it's going to run into even bigger problems in regard to that, because, in some cases we find pre-probates where there's, 15 heirs and one of them wants cash advance. So we're kind of chasing some of this, and we're learning as we go, just like everything we do. We kind of sharpen our axe every time we go through this. Jen, you asked if we just summarize it really simply. It's nothing more than exactly what it says. It is a cash advance. It is the company has money to lend. They will lend it on the assets that are in the probate. They'll typically lend up to 75% of the value of the asset that can be provable as to something that would redound to the person that's asking for the money. So just as a simple equation, let's say that there's a $500,000 net value of an estate. They would be able to, well, make it easier for my brain right now, 400, and they'd be up to $300,000 of it. If there were two heirs, each one of them could potentially have the ability to get roughly $150,000 in terms of doing that. So it's that kind of a program. And in fact, there's a commission schedule involved. And Alyssa, if you can find that and pop that up into chat as well, and then we'll come back and talk about that in a second also. And I see we've got a couple other questions. I'm assuming maybe they're about the same thing. George, you want to go ahead and unmute yourself?
I just had a quick idea. Is the cash advance available to clients we're working with that are not probate clients?
It depends. What types of clients? In other words, are you saying as a regular loan?
That, you know, or at least something to get from one place to another so that they can kind of a bridge sort of a thing.
I think it
I'm
would.
not thinking of anything in particular. I'm just
I
wondering.
think it would be worth pursuing. I'm going to make a note, if you would. I'll make a note and I'll check on that myself. I'll ask if they're interested because we said we'd do a follow-up with them anyway. So
Yeah.
I'm going to follow up after this call, and I'll definitely ask the question.
Good.
That's a good question, because not often, but occasionally you have somebody that has zero money. So they're like, I'm not leaving the house until they get their money from escrow, which, as we all know, can cause interruption in the flow, because more often than not, you close on one day, the seller's supposed to be out of the house, so the buyer can start moving in as soon as you record, and then the seller's supposed to get their money wired probably the next day. But you do have sellers that are like, I'm not going anywhere because they have zero money. And I don't know if that's just because they have a big distrust in the system, or if it is because they have zero money. But I think that is a good question on, a regular sale. If you could get them some money, like, hey, I understand that you don't want to move out because you have no money. What if we're able to get you some money so we can actually turn over the home on schedule as per the norms of the state? So good question, George.
Yeah, it is. I definitely will take them up with that and see what kind of answer we can come up with. Coley, do you have a question on the cash advance as well?
No, I had a different question. Is that okay?
Yeah, just hang on one second. Now I'm going to leave you unmuted, but does anybody else have any questions on the cash advance program, so that I want to get this one out of the way, and then we'll certainly take you. If you do, just raise your hand. Otherwise, we'll move on. George, you've got your hand up. I'm assuming that's about that. Let's just do that real quick.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Okay, so my question is, let's say this isn't a probate deal, but let's say it's a listing I have, right? That, they want to sell the property, but they need $20,000 to fix the roof. Would they cash advance that? I mean, it's not a probate deal, but if the property is going to sell, it's under.
That's kind of what we just talked about. We're
Yeah.
going to check on that and see if they're interested in pursuing it for other than just that. Their focus is certainly on probate. And the reason why is that they're willing to wait for it settled, and they have a provable asset. Part of the challenge in the people that we just mentioned is that they don't have any money, and they don't really have anything that ties it to it other than the potential sale of the property, which puts it at risk to some extent. If there is an appraised value of an estate that's covered in a will, it's a much tighter fit in terms of their ability to do repayment. So I think that's kind of the challenge that they're dealing with. And Roger, do you have something quick on cash advance, bud? Go ahead.
Roger?
Roger Lacey, unmute yourself, please.
Yeah, I can't unmute you, so I can't fix that unless you can unmute yourself there, pal.
Roger, you remember agree that in the beginning there that the call is being recorded. If you don't agree to that, it won't let you unmute yourself. That could be the issue. I know you've been on before though.
Yep, don't know, Roger. I can't get you open there, bud. We'll come back to you if you can figure it out. I'm gonna leave it as we ask you to unmute, and you can potentially find out. If you click on down at the bottom, Roger, where it says mute or stop video, if you click on one or the other of those, it will ask you to agree to have it be recorded. And if you say yes, then it should allow you to unmute yourself. George, you go ahead, buddy. Did I lose you? I'm sorry. Okay, Cully, go ahead, man.
Okay, good afternoon, gentlemen.
Hi there.
So I'm working with two public administrators. One of them is kind of receptive, was very easy to build rapport with. The other one wouldn't tell me anything. Only thing she would tell me was there's two heirs involved. I can't tell you if there's any real estate or anything. It's private information. So the one that I did build rapport with, he told me that the decedent suffered a lot of financial abuse. The body's still in the morgue, and there may be one living heir, but that he's hesitant about reaching out to the heirs because they financially abused the decedent as it is. So I already went ahead and followed up with the admin, sent him my website, and he said follow up with me in about a month or so, and we can talk a little bit more. So my question is, when working with public administrators, what is the best course of action besides what I've done already as far as connecting them to my website and trying to build that relationship with them? And as far as the other administrator that's more resistant, any way I can navigate around that? I was thinking of maybe looking at the two surviving sisters and trying to figure out who that is
Well,
and trying to reach out to them.
let me just ask you a quick question.
Mhm.
Where are you located? Let's start there.
I'm in San Jose, California.
Okay, so part of the challenge is that in a lot of cases, it depends on a lot of this as to where you are. Their public administrators do get appointed in certain areas, and some certain areas they don't. But where you are, if there is an opportunity ever to go build a relationship with one of those people, I think it's a lot of this is asking kind of the right questions, and you're doing the right thing. You're putting your best foot forward. You're pointing them to your website. You're basically showing that you bring value. I think the question is, and this would be to the one that you're dealing with who says they can't tell you anything. You've got to kind of ask them, say, well, how are you going to settle this out if you can't get the property? If there is property and you can't get it sold, how are you going to settle this out? Or how can I put myself in a position where I can help you? Let me tell you the things that I can potentially offer if there is anything, and potentially just try and get a time to maybe say, hey, look, if you got 5 minutes, how about we go grab a cup of coffee? I'll stop by. I'd like to meet you. I mean, you have nothing to lose by trying to be a little bit pushy and see if you can put your face in front of them. And you might find that this very resistant person, if they're literally a public administrator, do they do this for more than one? Have you seen their name come up before? Or are they just doing it in this one case? If it's just in this one case, that may be a challenge, and the reason they're not talking to you is they aren't experienced. If they're a public administrator and they're handling maybe several probates, which is often the case where you are, you want to find time to meet with them. That's just like an attorney that handles family law and does a lot of probate. You want to get in their face. You want to have the opportunity to spend some time with them and tell them what you do. And that's what's important. You've got to have that opportunity to do that. Does that make any sense?
Yeah, that makes sense. The way when I try to pitch that as far as like, oh, if stuff comes up, some potential challenges, can you reach out to me? She's like, no, as a county employee, I would be liable if I connected them to another outside agency and things didn't go accordingly, that they could get in trouble. So she was like, contact human resources or labor relations. But I can try that at least out and reach out to her again and see like if she's willing to meet up or anything.
If she's an employee of the county, and that's why you're in a unique state. Every municipality is different. In some cases, there are people who simply apply to be public administrators, and they're not technically an employee. If she's an employee of the county, you have the same opportunity. You say, well, look, that's fine. I understand. As a citizen of the county, I'd like to learn more about that process. I would like to learn more about it by coming to meet with you, not even about this specific case. I just kind of like to learn how that process works a little better. When could I come and meet with you? She should have to meet with you. She's employed by the county. And I think it's an opportunity for you to just do exactly what I said, which is not say, I want to work you on this case. Oh, well, let me learn a little bit more about it because I'm learning as I go as well. And I want to do a great job and I don't want to overstep my boundaries. When could we meet so I could learn a bit more about it? I think you might find a bit more receptive audience if you try that.
Mm-hmm.
Certainly won't hurt to try.
Have you checked tax records to match the names up on the real estate to the people you're talking to? I mean, sometimes you'll find that the last name is the same. I mean, the fact that you're uncertain that there's even real estate involved, I mean, Properties Plus, I mean, that's a service that all the leads has. So that gives you a much higher probability that there actually is property with the probate. But the fact that you're not even sure that there's real estate there, I mean, like I think you said, find out what the need is. Hey, this is what I do. I help clean out homes. We do estate sales. We can help you with repairs. But if they're resistant on allowing you to help and you don't know there's real estate there, I mean, like Tim said, you maybe get together with them to try to learn the process better. But it sounds like they're kind of stonewalling you, and that's a tough, to me, that's a tough place to be. A lot of times I just want to move on to get to the next person that's willing to open the door, or at least tell me something like, hey, I'm still grieving right now, but I'm in a few weeks I'm ready to go. You can call me back. I mean, just to be at a standstill, that's a tough position.
Yeah, unfortunately, and it's sad is that, you're again, I keep saying the same thing, you're in an unusual county, and that is you realize that you're in a high population area and the amount of stuff that's available in probate there is small. It's not a massive influx of opportunity. And, he's making a very good point that the more you can learn about the property, you might want to at least try for a month or ask us to run Property Plus on that and dig in and see if there's value there, see if there is an opportunity. But I do think getting with that public administrator might be helpful, at least to learn the process more. And if nothing else, put yourself in front of them. And even though, they say they can't refer you, human nature is human nature. If they have found somebody that they think is trustworthy or could potentially offer it as a service rather than as a realtor, that's the whole value first proposition. If you're leading with, I've got services that I can offer to people in probate and I don't make any money on these. Well, now you're offering a public service, and that's a whole different ballgame than just being a mercenary realtor out to, find property to sell. So, I mean, there are a lot of different ways you can spin that. Okay.
Yeah, sounds good. The way I usually spin it is I introduce myself as a social worker, which I am, as well as a licensed psychotherapist, and I transition or pivot into grief counseling services for people going through probate.
Well, that's cool to do. The only thing that you want to be careful about, are you a realtor as well or an investor?
I'm an investor.
Okay. Well, that's fine. If that's the way you do it, that's fine. If you're a realtor, you have to be careful about doing that because if you're a realtor and you didn't disclose that, then you'd have a different problem. As an investor, you're in a different circumstance there. So you're good to go there.
Okay. Thanks.
All right, man. Thank you a bunch. Appreciate it. Great question, by the way. Great question. Roger, I understand you negotiated getting yourself unhooked there, bud. You got a question about Probate Plus?
Well, no, I was trying to get in on the cash advance discussion
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
when that was going on. Um, in my market, there's a whole lot of really aggressive investors in here, and I try to differentiate myself with being able to provide value at closing for a mortgage buyer of the home either through FHA or conventional financing. And I have used some of my funds in helping to fix the things that need to bring the house up to safe, sound, and sanitary. If the family or the court both decide that they don't want to do that, I'm the first one to call investors to say, okay, so let's get some investors involved in the process. If the court is interested in providing more cash to the heirs of the estate, then we'll talk about how much it takes to get things done. Roof is one of the big things that is included in that. I try to make sure that or find out if there's an insurance policy still on the house. But that is one of the things that I try to make sure on the front end. Is there still an insurance policy? Let's get a roofer up there and see if we can't get the insurance to pay for that. But as far as fixing or replacing a hot water tank, which is maybe $1,000, a couple $1,000, whatever, or some other things that can make the house safe, sound, and sanitary, and those are FHA requirements for doing it. I then have to get court approval and show that the net to the family will be more than selling it to an investor without that additional investment going into it. Again, I'm competing with postcards and phone calls and from investors in my market every day, and that is one of the things. We can get this much cash without realtor fees and everything else that's being offered tomorrow or next week. And I sit there and I said, well, if you can get that done through the court, just please take a look at what the programs that I have to help you, and we may be able to get it to safe, sound, and sanitary standards so that you can get a retail purchaser of the property and take care of you instead of the investor taking care of themselves by buying it at a lower than market price on that. So the cash advance part of it, I have not used for the repairs unless they're significant, and I believe that the cash advance can be used for that. Am I correct with that?
They can be used for anything that they want to use it for. They don't differentiate in terms of usage. All they care about is the ability to do repayment as a provable element in the circumstance. So if they're going to advance the money, they got to make sure they're going to get the money back. Just like any other lender, except that it's not a loan, it's an advance.
Yeah, I mean, Roger, you can also use a novation agreement. If repairs are minor and you're willing to put the cash out there, you can get paid for doing that. Putting $2,000-3,000 into the house and then getting reimbursed at the close of escrow for that those repairs that you put up front, or you can get the cash advance. But I do find, a lot of times when somebody says they have a cash investor, I'm like, oh, okay, are they paying closing costs? And people are like, yeah, they're paying all my closing costs. And that's kind of a hook that investors use. And people overestimate what those closing costs are. So that's when I try to, get in and just basically say, hey, don't worry so much about the investor paying your closing costs. Worry about what you're going to net, right? Because a lot of investors try to give you a little diversion and say they're going to pay your closing costs, and that hooks you as a seller, and you get very excited about that. But it's always, what are you going to net? How much money you're going to put in your pocket at the end of the day? And when I throw that in, when I'm talking to somebody, they're trying to go, oh, I got a cash investor, they're paying my closing costs. Okay, well, worry about the net. It kind of opens them up. Now they're like, oh, okay, I didn't know that. So just like subtle things to get into the conversation, so you can, get your foot in the door to shift them to using your services instead of somebody else's.
Great. That's great. Kent, the other thing that we said we talked earlier about the commission structure on probate cash, and we popped it up in chat, so I may not be able to see that. So right now, the commission schedule that you can earn as part of this is $300 if they advance $5,000, you can earn $300. If they put 10 grand out, you can get 6. 15,000, you get 8. $1,000 on 20,000. And if it's a higher amount, they'll negotiate. In other words, they want to put it out commensurate with the value that's there. And it's basically just a finder's fee. And you don't have to do anything. They do all the work. You just furnish them with a good quality lead. And I kind of really want to just start this out by making you aware of what's going on, making you aware that there's value here that's available, but you got to make sure that we're not wasting their time, because the last thing we want to do is have a resource that they get tired of trying to do this and don't want to work with our folks. And they're sharpening their pencil as well to try to make sure that, they're not hiring extra salespeople for opportunities that aren't there. I also want to take just one other opportunity to welcome, we have another person with the ATL background up, Michael Brown. Wave at everybody. Michael has just joined us this week. Michael is another marketing implementation specialist, and he'll be working with our folks to work on marketing campaigns. So this is his first time on the call to get familiar with what we're doing, and welcome aboard, buddy. Glad to have you. Okay.
I also just really quickly want to mention one thing, Tim. Will Foster made a good point. His site, he has a site with us, but he noticed he doesn't have the cash advance page. So if you have a website with us that you either just didn't get the page added at your initial setup, or maybe you've had a site with us for a while and had it built before we started adding that page to all of our sites, it's free to have one added. So you can get that probate cash page, info page added to your website, your All the Leads website. So just reach out to us. If you want the page and you don't have it, let us know and our team will get it put up for you quickly.
Hey, listen, I also want to make a point about that, and let's take this offline, but I am going to talk with them again this afternoon, and I want to get some more qualifying questions done. So we're probably going to do an across-the-board revamp of all of those. So before we add them to anybody's site real quick, in the next couple of days, we'll get that revamp done of the questionnaire that we put up there, and then we'll fix them all at the same time.
Okay, sounds like a plan.
Make
So
a
yeah,
point.
then just let us know, submit a ticket, and we'll get you guys reached out to.
Absolutely. And let's you and I get together and we'll get those questions in there. That's great. Good opportunity today to talk about this. It's a great program. And I think the last thing that's important to know is that there isn't an interest, that they don't charge interest. They charge a fee and it gets paid out of the estate when the probate closes. It never comes out of the heir's pocket. So it's not like they've got to spend money. They're just going to get it out of the proceeds. So, if they were supposed to get 150 and had a bunch advanced out, they took 50 out or in advance, they'd only get 100, but they will have already had use of the funds for a while. So that's the way that program works, and it's a great opportunity. Okay, I think we've exhausted that topic pretty well. Anybody else got any other questions about that? If not, we'll open it up to anything else anybody has.
Yeah, I wanted to just pivot back to what Jim was saying about those probate, people that are getting those $1 million deals, because that's exciting to me. I've done 750. I've done a couple 6 and 5, and and then I've done a lot of lower end deals. So that's exciting as I get better at probate and I build my pipeline through making my phone calls every day, because my goal is to get on the phone about 2 hours a day. Essentially, I feel like I'm going to have 1 or 2 really good conversations during that time. Right now, I'm just calling everybody because, again, you always want to have your pipeline full first and foremost. But as you build your pipeline, then you can get more discerning about what kind of deals you want to work with. Kind of maybe have a ranking system. How easy is this person going to be to work with? And then what is what is the paycheck? What is the outcome for you and your family? How much money are you going to get? And kind of rate people on a sliding scale. This is a $1 million listing, but this person is going to be exhausting and very difficult to work with. Do you want to keep them in your pipeline? Because I get to a point where I get so many leads to follow up with, it's hard to follow up with everybody. So my next process or filter is going to be filtering out some of the lower dollar leads and probably actually just referring them to people. But it's amazing what a great pipeline you can build up if you are actually making the calls, every day, and then using the letters, referring people back to your letters for social proof, just so they, or excuse me, so they know that you are specializing in probate, right? The website, the letters, all good things to point back at. But just get better and better as you go in your probate business.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's, you said it very well. I mean, it's all the touch points that you can put there. It even goes back to, what Coley was talking about earlier, is that having the opportunity to present yourself in the best possible light is what makes all of this work. The better people have to perceive as you for what you are, that's what you're looking for. You want to put your best foot forward at all times. We've got another question that came in offline on the internet from someone watching, and I think this came from Facebook. Cynthia said she's new and excited to join. She's got two questions. One of them is, where do we get the information for pre-probate? And the other one had to do with reaching out to mortuaries to partner with them for leads. So I'll take these in order. As far as pre-probate, we get those from a lot of different places. It's someone once asked if we're, following the hearses around town to do that. And obviously that's not the case. We basically start with, it's a notice of death. That's what anyone who's going to do this does. Some of that comes from legal notices. Some of it comes from changes in tax record that are instantaneously done in some of the counties that we have automated processing in. Some of it comes from legacy. Some of it comes from different funeral homes who publish to registries. There's lots of different places. That's really the very tip of the iceberg. Once we have that data, we then go to work and we augment that information. First off, we prove it out. We do the best that we can to make sure that we locate via skip trace any of the heirs that are possible to find. We also do a quick search in pre-probate to find out if indeed the person who passed away did have property in their name at the time of death. Oftentimes when a person passes away, particularly in the high retirement states, Florida, Arizona, California, anywhere it's warm, they're not living where they own. They've moved down there, they're snowbirds, that sort of thing. So we have to dig around and find where they were and what they did first. And typically people look at pre-probate more as an investor-friendly product because, it's low-hanging fruit. It's that someone has passed away, the heirs are probably anxious to sell, may not have gone to probate, who knows? And that's the kind of stuff that you're getting it quicker, because typically, in most cases, we're getting that information maybe within 30 days or less. In some cases, it's, a couple of days less. A couple of days after, because it depends on when we did it. You're getting it very quickly. And the other thing that you got to be aware of in regard to pre-probate is you're going to find that people that you're dealing with there are people who've experienced loss. They're not a third party hand out there who has not necessarily experienced the loss and got appointed as the administrator or as the personal representative. There's somebody who just lost a relative that they love. So you got to approach that far more carefully and be kind and compassionate. And I think if you saw the recent post that we put out on Facebook and followed some of the conversations we've had over the last couple of weeks about being very compassionate, the last thing we want to do and encourage any of you to do is to ever be a predator. We don't want to be perceived as that. It gives the industry a bad name, gives you a bad name, and that's what we don't want. You want to be known as somebody who offers value, somebody who does care, somebody who says, if there's real estate involved and if you need some help doing that, here's why I'm the right person to do that. And that should always be the approach that you take, and not even leading with that. It's, what are you having trouble with, or are you having trouble? Or in the case of a pre-probate, I'm calling because it's something that I do. I built a practice around helping people cope with a loss who may have property involved, and here are the services that I can offer. So those are the kinds of things that, we're looking at. Last question, Cynthia, that you asked, kind of had to do with talking to mortuaries or funeral homes. Definitely, we've had people who do that. We've had folks who have built those relationships over time. They not only work with them, they work with assisted living facilities, they work with memory care facilities and all of that. But again, it's from the same approach. It's not from, yes, it's obvious I'm a realtor. Obviously, if there's property involved, I'd like to do it and like to be involved. But they lead with the value that they have. This is where having a good trifold brochure matters, because it's something that can be on the funeral home's desk. It can be something that's in the assisted living facilities office that they hand out for you. And it shouldn't lead with, I'm a realtor and I can do probate. It should lead with, here are services that are available at no cost to you, that are available in our local marketplace to help you cope with the loss of a loved one, or to help you get through probate. And those are great things that people will just pick up and take with them. So it didn't cost you anything other than getting it printed. And we do that for you if you want. We print thousands of those a month, and just go out and find those relationships and put them out there. What you do to cultivate those relationships is up to you. I think part of this is, if you're in the pre-probate side of this, you may have the opportunity to help them find attorneys. You may help them find all kinds of services that are there. So it's a great reason to sit down with attorneys and build those relationships so that you can make those referrals. It's all that stuff. But yes, certainly go and cultivate those relationships. Ken, have you ever done any of that?
You know what? I've had my second attorney lunch and meeting recently. My approach is basically get the deal first, find the client, prospect them. Like I said many times, I find that actually fairly easy. You get stressed the second you get on the phone that you don't get a great conversation. But once I settle down and relax and know, like, hey, if I spend an hour or two, I'm gonna have some really very nice conversations. So I get the client. Once I get into action with the client, I feel like I have probably one of the better resumes through my Zillow reviews. And that doesn't really matter. I mean, just the fact that you're on top of it, you show the attorney that you're ready to go, and you know the process, and you're following up every step of the way. At that point, that's when I get in touch with the attorney. And like I said, I've gone out with 2 attorneys in the last month and a half, took them out to lunch or coffee. But Tim, that's actually a great idea, because now I'm going to switch my strategy. These calls are like coaching for myself. Instead of actually saying, hey, can I take you to lunch? The first step is can I drop by the office to meet you in person? Then I can bring by the flyers, drop the flyers off, and then say, hey, I'd like to take you to lunch or coffee. So I'm always tweaking my process when we have these conversations. But I think that's an amazing idea. It's kind of, if they don't have another stack of a provider, and you're bringing that back by, and you just set it down somewhere, why wouldn't they just keep it there?
Well,
right?
And they would. And the people who, long time ago, when I was first learning about go be a salesperson, one of the things that folks that I talked to, they said, build those relationships not with the person that you're trying to sell, build a relationship with the office that surrounds them.
Yeah.
And, that's why people take cookies to the front desk. It's why, people do what they can to make sure that when you walk through that front door, the person who's that gatekeeper that has that person's time under their control is going to have a smile on their face.
Right.
And, maybe you take cookies, maybe you drop off a flower here and there, just something silly, but just don't walk in the door empty handed. It's like, hey, I want you to put these flowers on your desk.
Right.
You got to have a reason to do it. And, it's building those relationships is nothing more than that great conversation that you're very good at. So I'm sure you'll do well with this.
Thank you. But you're right. I mean, it's definitely, if you say you're great, people are like, yeah, this person's arrogant. But if the attorney says you're great or somebody else says you're great, then people tend to believe it. So it's kind of, yeah, find that third party that will be an advocate for you, and then, build you up, and that builds instant rapport and trust. So, but yeah, like I said, I feel like it's a matter of time before I build a steady attorney relationship. I think the one attorney I went out with was an estate planning or a family planning. So I don't think he gets like that many probates, but he said, hey, listen, you would be at the top of my list of people I would refer. That was about a month and a half ago, 2 months ago. But I feel like if I keep going the way I'm going and refine the process, I will find those attorneys that will refer me on a consistent basis. So,
Well,
yeah.
you're planting, that's the kind of acorns you want to put in the ground, because if they're doing family planning and they're helping people get their wills together and do the things that need to get done, that's something that you want to talk to them about. And eventually, it's like somebody who's doing the same thing with an insurance agent. Insurance agents don't make a lot of money in the very beginning on doing something. Over time, they become very wealthy because they built recurring revenue. And it's because of the same thing. You're planting those things, seeds in the ground, all those family planning things. Let's say that guy does, a dozen of them a month. Well, he's making his money doing that. But at some point, some of those people are going to pass away. And if you're his guy, you're rocking it. You're right there where you need to be. Other thing you want to remember, Ken, when you're having those conversations with a family planner, talk about the cash advance program a little bit as well. And just have that in his mind, because they're going to come back to him at the point of death. They're going to come back. He's going to be involved in that. And he may find right then that they need money for whatever reason, particularly if the breadwinner died.
Right. Well, I think dropping off the flyers too is good, because again, I met with this attorney about a month and a half, 2 months ago, and I have no communication since. But actually dropping off the flyers, then it's a constant reminder. Oh, this guy he's the resource. He's the person to go to. He's the person to refer. Yeah. So like I said, I'm here to learn myself. But guys, we are taking questions. I mean, this is not about me and the other coaches. This is about you guys. So of course, whatever questions you have, this is the time to ask them. As and I know there's tons of questions out there, because every time I get on a coaching call, I try to give as much time as I possibly can, because I want to see you guys all succeed. Like probate has changed my life. And then typically though, I got to go like, oh, okay, I don't want to do this, but I got to cut you off. So reschedule with me next month. And I see people are starting to do that more regularly, which is awesome. But I'm like, if you ask your questions on this live stream, then you get my experience, Tim's, Jim's, Bruce when he's here. And that way you get the benefit of all our experience, which is probably 50 years in the business all combined. So, ask your questions.
I think Jim.
Yeah, I was just going to add, I don't think you guys mentioned it, but whenever we talk about attorneys, funeral homes, estate planning, specialists, I don't forget the adult congregate living facilities. Don't forget that a lot of times mom died, we got to get dad to nursing home, we need to sell right away. And the administrator of that facility, it's their job to keep that place full. So, drop out those flyers and include them in your rounds. Looks like we got a bunch more questions, Tim, at least a few.
Yep. Fernando, go ahead, buddy. Unmute yourself. Go ahead.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay. Really enjoyed the conversation so far. I've done about 50 deals back between 2004 and 2010, wholesaling short sales, and haven't done a deal since then, since 2010. I want to get back into it, and probate has always been something that I feel like it would be really good for me. And the way that I've dealt with, say, people going through hard times in the past, So my question is on a marketing side. Um, I feel like probate attorneys would be, we would probably want to be as close to them as possible, and create relationships, long-term relationships with them. Is that true? And if so, besides the, how to influence friends and, influence people and win friends, and, is there anything that I could do to, hit the ground running again, as far as creating long-term relationships?
Do you have,
in which professions?
are you an all the lead subscriber at this point?
Not yet.
Okay, so one of the things that I would point out is that when you get the probate leads from us, if there is an attorney appointed, you get the attorneys with that. So what we give you is the last known address of the decedent, the personal representative, their name, address, multiple phone numbers, the ability to contact those people, and the names and locations of the attorneys. And so if you're doing that, you can take every month that you get your leads, you sort your leads and you sort them by the name of the attorney, and you'll find that you'll see recurring names. So one attorney is doing 3 or 4 probates a month. And it's because, it's back to Ken's thing. They're a family law attorney who've been doing it for a long time, and they're the attorney of record for that person. And it's just what we said before, is once you have identified your targets, you can go and market to those people. And it'd probably be good for you to listen to last week's call. We talked a good bit about that. And one of the things came up there was the fact that the easiest way to get in front of those people, if necessary, you find somebody who's got, let's say you're in a county that's got 100 leads, and you find an attorney that's consistently doing 8 or 9 a month, go buy an hour of that guy's time, invest in your business, and go sit down with them, tell them what you offer, look at the wheel of probate that we recommend you put together, which is a group of resources and people that you can help them get their job done quicker, faster, and it gets them paid more quickly. So that's kind of where you work with them. Okay.
Okay, so they don't get paid until there's a settlement of sorts or distribution?
It depends on how it's structured. They may be billing for time. They may be doing that, but they potentially are billing the estate, and they can't get their money instantly. And if it gets settled out, all of the cash gets dispersed. So oftentimes attorneys are waiting for a payoff at the end of the game. That's kind of what you need to get to.
Fantastic. Okay. Yeah, buying an hour at a time, consulting with them. I love that.
Sure.
Thank you so much.
You got to get the targets first. And that's why, that's one of the reasons that we furnish the attorney info with the lead.
Right.
And I'm not telling you you're always going to find it. We only do it if it's published and if it's part of that record. And it's not something that's mandatory for the courts to put in there. In a lot of cases they do, and we furnish it. So I'm just kind of giving you a tip there. Okay.
Got it. So I'll need to become a subscriber, identify the attorney with most cases, and then start the relationship there.
You bet. You got it.
Oh, thanks, Tim.
You bet. No problem. Cam, I know you were trying to get your hand up early, and Sherry, we will get to you before we get off. Cam, go ahead and unmute yourself, bud.
Hey, what's up, gents? How you doing?
Good.
So I'm pretty much newer to the probate space. I just been like a fly on the wall, absorbing a lot of this information. First and foremost, I appreciate you guys. So I just kind of wanted to go over my game plan and just see if you could poke holes in it, basically.
Or help you.
So I started going to the court a little more. I'm also doing the probate mastery class and stuff like that. Gonna be finishing that. Well, I'm gonna be finishing the foundations part. Right now I've been putting myself into the courthouse at least once a week, even if it's like, just to kind of poke around and like really get an idea. Right now, my marketing, I'm cold calling, and I'm going to be sending mailers specifically tailored to probate leads, right? And another thing I've been doing, and it's funny that you guys brought that up, I've been trying to go outside of the box. There's this place called CTI around me, and they're like social workers. I went there and I just like one of the ladies, like she just knows my stepmom just because like Lowell's really small. And she's like, yeah, drop a bunch of your cards off down here. It's funny. Somebody came down here one day and they were asking about probate, but she said it doesn't happen a lot, but it's happened. So I didn't know if there was any, well, you guys kind of said it, like go to funeral parlors and all that stuff. So I'm just gonna start just going there and just pitch my idea. I'm a concierge service, and yeah, I just kind of wanted to.
I would say if you're going to the courthouse, I mean, number one, I mean, it's a good opportunity to take video and have some content, for your video platforms or short clips where you're sending out text message videos to your clients, but it's also a great way to start talking to the attorneys. Hey, excuse me, what do you do? Are you an attorney? What do you do here? Basically going back to our earlier conversation, that way you can ask them, hey, can you explain the procedure here? A while back, Jim, I was asking a question and Jim and I weren't connecting on the question, but I found out later that in Florida, they don't have to go back to court for a bidding process. Right. So then I was like, okay, now it makes sense why there's a disconnect why he didn't understand my question as well as I, thought he might have. But hey, I'm just trying to learn the process. So start talking to the attorneys down there. And I'm sure they're gonna see that as like, oh, this guy's hungry to learn.
Absolutely.
And you'll find people that want to help you.
Okay. Yeah, just kind of just go there and ask any question I can just think of, basically.
Yeah, essentially, I mean, like myself, I know a lot. I've been in real estate for a long, long time, but what I always do try to present myself is still opening to learning. I am an educator and a student, so it doesn't matter what level you're at.
You always learn.
You always want to keep learning, right? So, the fact that you're down there asking questions, if you can find the right person that wants to give you the benefit of their knowledge, you might be surprised how well that will turn into, or how fast that could turn into a relationship where you are getting referred business.
So I got super lucky and I got hooked up with a probate attorney. She's actually helping me guide through a lot of this. She actually referred me a really big deal. And yeah, I'm just super lucky with her, super blessed. So reaching out to attorneys, so I did pull a huge list of attorneys in my area, but I really didn't know how to properly approach them. Now I have cold called a few, but I feel like my pitch is kind of dull.
Well, listen, and I would like to take some more time doing this. We did promise we'd get to it. If you don't mind,
sorry guys,
do me a favor and come back next week. Let's talk about it again, okay? And let's talk a little bit about what to say, when to say it, and that sort of thing. And we'll take that apart next week. All right?
I'm super down for that.
All right, bud. Talk to you then.
I appreciate
that. Thank you. Sherry, we were waiting on you. You're going to finish us off. You need to unmute yourself if you can. Okay.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yep.
I can't hear myself.
Yeah, we can hear you, Sherry.
Okay. So I'm driving too. So I went to the county courthouse today to start pulling some probate records. The one county was not very friendly at all, was not offering up information. I finally got them to, they said all they could do is give me docket numbers, and then I can go on the computer and individually look these up. And I said, okay, can you give me 6 months worth, which ended up being like 12 pages. So here I am at the courthouse writing, looking at the death certificate, writing the property address down, taking a picture of the petitioner. So my question is because this is very time consuming, is there a suggested month that I should go back so I'm not wasting my time? Like if I need to go back 6 months and take me a couple of times to go up there and get all this data. I'm cool with that, but I don't want to be wasting my time if I should only be looking at like the past 3 months, and then obviously I'm going to keep up with it going forward.
Well, I'm not sure if you're aware, but all the leads provides the leads. They aggregate all that data for you. I mean, like I said, I've said it on the call before. I mean, there's definitely different ways to do things, but if you could just get 200 solid leads where the numbers are very good, and there's a high likelihood that there's going to be real estate. I mean, I say do what you do best, which I assume is selling real estate. I know that's what I do best. I'm not in the business to aggregate my own leads. I feel like that's not a good allocation of my time and my skill level. I've been doing real estate for 18 years. I haven't been generating leads myself. So
I get that, but like right now I'm tapped out of marketing dollars. So all the leads is not in my realm right now. So once I close a couple, then that would be, something that I will definitely look into. But, one of them was even posted today. Is it like, do you do outreach to people that are like posted on the same, like have opened up probate on the same day? Like, I feel like I would be, and maybe this is getting into myself, but I feel like that would be too soon to approach somebody on that. I don't know.
Sometimes people take as long as a year from the time of death to actually file for probate. That's the challenge in giving you a rule of thumb, because there's no legal requirement that says you have to file probate by a certain date. It's usually predicated on the needs of the property itself. If there are a bunch of debts and they've got to settle the probate to get the debts paid, it'll get done sooner. Sometimes if, family members still surviving, living in the home, nothing really changed, they're in no big rush to file probate because insurance is potentially already paid off and, they're just not in a big hurry. So it just depends. It literally, there's not a particularly great rule of thumb. The one thing that we do say is that probate leads season well. And that's kind of Ken's point, is that, if you had 200 good solid leads, that's a lot to work, and you could certainly use those and market to them. And, I think that's kind of your point, is that do what you can, dig back as far as you can. And you're going to take a bunch of time to do it. It sounds like in particular, it's going to take you a long time in your county because they don't make it easy. And, that's kind of what we're pretty good at doing. And certainly, what county, where are you located?
I'm in Michigan, so I'm looking at Kalamazoo County, Kent County, like 3 different counties right in my area.
Right.
And that's the thing too. I'm in a smaller community.
One of the things you might want to do, given what you're trying to do, I'm going to make a suggestion to you to consider. Potentially, it might be a bit less expensive for you to start with. You don't know who, probate hasn't necessarily been filed, but you do know that a death has occurred. You might want to look into pre-probate as a product. And I'm not just trying to sell you something because you're here, but I always try to help people do stuff. And you described a pretty arduous process. In a lot of counties, it's not even quite as hard as you described to get the information. But why don't you at least talk to our sales folks and talk to them about pre-probate in your marketplace and see if we can put something together that'll work with your budget to try to help you out and get this done. Because you're gonna wear yourself out doing this. If you only found 12 in the time that you went back already, it'd take you a long time to get there. And we want you to be successful. So
I think the other thing is too, making sure that, regardless of how many you end up with, whether you're going to start with some of the older leads, like they both, Ken and Tim both said, I mean, the leads do season well. We have a lot of subscribers who, intentionally buy what we call historical leads that date back, 6, 9, 12 months, because there's a lot of people who still haven't made decisions. But I think regardless of whether you're going to go back and start with the older leads or start with the most current and forward, I think what you need to make sure you have in place, especially, to make sure your effort isn't for naught, that you have a plan in place on how you're going to follow up and what your plan's going to be like to work through the leads that you do collect, regardless of, how old they may be.
Yeah.
Okay. I'll schedule a call with them.
Yeah, you might consider shifting some of your marketing dollars, assuming you're putting some dollars out there. I mean, I'm always testing one lead source to another one and going where the numbers most reliable, where am I getting the most people to pick up the phone, and most importantly, where are my deals coming from? And then you want to, move your marketing dollars accordingly.
Right.
But as far as reaching out, I mean, if somebody passed away, maybe yesterday, you might want to wait 2 weeks, but I'm always a big fan of like reaching out as soon as possible, just trying to be as courteous as possible and, have that, tentative, you want to be tentative in your voice and your tonality, just so they can feel that you're coming from a place of respect and understanding. But I personally like to reach out sooner than later, because many times if I'm not the first person to really connect with them, then the door stays shut forever. So, this fortune favors the bold, and you have to reach out. You have to show them that you're going to be the person that is going to help them.
Just keep in mind, and Ken, you're making a great point, which is that if you're approaching it from the standpoint of, yep, I'm a realtor, I'm an investor, and I am looking to profit from the sale of property. If that's the only thing that's on your mind when you do this, then you don't have your head right to make that call or that contact. And if you're approaching it from the standpoint of saying, if I were in that situation, I know that there are pitfalls they're going to run into. There are things that they didn't expect. There are things that they don't understand. And the more you educate yourself to be able to provide and help them with that, then you can approach that call with the right mindset. And if you do, reach out to us and set that call up, make sure that you tell them that, we recommend you do it and you came from the Mastermind call, and we'll be happy to work something out with you. Okay? All right.
And
I think we lost you.
We lost her.
Muted. Hey, Jimmy, Sherry, I'm sorry to kind of cut you off. We're well past the top of the hour, and we've had a lot of people hanging around. It's been a great call. Jimmy, I think it's time to send us to the barn, buddy.
Absolutely. I want to thank each and every one of you for spending a good portion of your leap day with us. Go out and make something happen. Make this a memorable day. I want to particularly thank Carmen and Mike and George and Cam and Sherry and Fernando, everybody who actively participated. I want to challenge each of you, take one idea that inspired you on this call, go out and put it into practice, and please come back next Thursday and share your results with the group. Have a great day, everybody. Same time next week. Take care.